Now, another energy company waded into politics today. Npower is going, wait for it, to put up its prices by an average 10%, just like the other two that have already announced their hikes. The government advice to all those squirming with anxiety or boiling with anger is that we should shop around. Labour, by contrast, promises to cap energy prices for a while at least. The voters like that idea, which has given the Tories a bit of a problem. In the Mail on Sunday, the former Conservative Party chairman, Lord Saatchi, pointed out it's now 21 years since the Conservatives won an election. The corrosive question for people like him is whether they can ever do so again. I'll be talking to him in a moment or two, but first Allegra Stratton reports.
With his conference speech, Ed Miliband set the political weather, anticipating that this autumn energy prices would go up. And so they have. 8.2% from the first company, 9.2% from another, and today, 10.4% from Npower. A Labour government, he said, would freeze all of this.
Stormy weather.
But what do those numbers do for his own numbers? Since Ed Miliband's conference speech, his personal standing has gone up by 12 points, and the number of Labour voters satisfied with their leader is up by 22 points. But the party's overall lead on the Tories hasn't extended. Some Tories are delighted with Ed Miliband's energy price freeze. They believe in one fell swoop he resuscitated Marxism. It's no longer just a plaque on the wall. But there are actually three different camps on how to deal with Miliband's energy freeze. The first camp believe that they don't have to do anything, that the GDP figures on Friday will reveal an economy purring along. The second camp is the tax cut camp. They believe the best way to deal with cost of living is to give people more of their own money back. The third camp thinks the answer is competition. That Ed Miliband is onto something by saying the utility companies need to be cracked down on. It's just the Tory answer should be more competition. This last camp believe they must move because vast sections of the country favour action on the utilities companies. In just one recent poll, only 12% trust energy companies to treat their customers fairly. 84% don't. Answering another question, 63% support a plan to freeze gas and energy prices for 20 months. 26% oppose it. But the Labour leader, pollsters say, has to convince voters a little more if he's to capitalise on these numbers. David Cameron is a veteran of election campaigns, but one colleague of his from the 1992 campaign, nonetheless urges him to realise the new threat posed by Ed Miliband. Party adman and one-time chairman Maurice Saatchi this weekend warned Tories that defending unfettered capitalism would help Labour into power. Ed Miliband seems to have set the weather. Now Tories must dress for it.
And Lord Saatchi is here, older and a wiser man. You really think that Marx might have been right?
Well, I'd really like it to... I'd like him not to be proved right. The particular aspect of his prophecies, which worries me, which is why I wrote this article in the Mail on Sunday, is that he forecast that after years, I think I'm quoting him, after years of internecine warfare amongst capitalists, there would be fewer and fewer capitalists controlling vaster and vaster empires. And that does seem to have been an accurate prediction. And I would be alarmed if that was allowed to take hold, and what it says behind me, capitalism isn't working, became what people believe, and that then they might turn to state socialism, state control, as an answer to a free market system which they don't regard as being effective. The energy, of course, as you've been dealing with in the programme, this is an absolutely key test of public opinion.
Absolutely, and it's quite clear where public opinion resides in this. Apparently. It's also quite clear, isn't it, that when David Cameron says people should shop around, he's talking nonsense, really, isn't he?
Well, he's expressing what is the true faith of conservatism, which is that at the root of conservatism is free market competition. This is what we believe in. So it strikes at the heart of conservative belief to find a situation in which there isn't real competition. And I think the Prime Minister is expressing the view that that's what he wants, that's what Conservatives want.
But it isn't what we've got. We've got a cartel.
That is true. So now here you have a serious problem. That's why I wrote why I wrote what I wrote.
How did the Conservatives find themselves on the wrong side of the fence on this?
Well, I think the solution that Labour proposes is a solution that we don't want, because what is the solution? Their solution would be some kind of state control. Our solution, more in keeping with free market views, would be that the market should operate. That's what the Prime Minister's saying. The people should be able to shop around. Yes, now that's what needs to be resolved. If the position is that globalisation has resulted, or as an unintended consequence of globalisation, is the creation of global cartels, that's a major problem. Because exactly as you're seeing in energy will happen in many other categories, and people will come to the conclusion that all this free market competition is not actually working because there isn't enough competition. That's what I'm trying to suggest, is that this is something we must watch out for very carefully, and which Labour could exploit if we don't, and we must make sure they can't.
But if the consequence, I mean, you believe in the market because you believe it makes people free, isn't that right?
Well, I mean, if you ask me what is the actual fundamental belief of conservatism, I would say in one word, it's freedom, independence, individuality, self-determination.
But it hasn't led to freedom, has it? Not in. I mean, this energy is a classic case. It hasn't led to freedom. And if you can't afford to pay the bill, it's a rather interesting philosophical idea, but that's all.
Well, let me go on with basic conservative belief. Will that help?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say the most fundamental conservative belief is freedom. Now let me ask you this: is there a connection between freedom and money? I would say that there is, and to deny that would be hypocritical. I take as my case Professor J.K. Galbraith. He said, I think it's very memorable, the greatest restriction on the liberty of the citizen is a complete absence of money. And therefore, what conservatism should aim at is that people will have more money. How will that, in order that they can be more free? You take my point. In other words, there is a moral purpose to conservatism which it's very important to express, because otherwise it could leave people with the view that conservatism is only interested in money. We are interested in money, but we're interested in money as the route to the highest good of all, which is freedom.
So what do you think the Tories should do?
Well, I'm the chairman of a very fine body called the Centre for Policy Studies, created by Mrs. Thatcher many years ago, which was responsible for some iconic policies that certainly helped the Conservative Party to win many elections, including, of course, you can own your own home, the sale of council houses. So we are going to have to develop, and we will, a policy, just one, because more than one is already too complicated, before the next election, which has the iconic status in terms of appeal and simplicity of you can own your own home. That's our aim in the Centre for Policy Studies, and we'll do it. And this will have a big impact.
Do you know what that policy is going to be about?
Yes.
Go on.
It's going to be about freedom. It's going to be about freedom and the connection between freedom and money, because we are not going to shy away from the fact that to speak about freedom without speaking about money is hypocrisy. The Conservative Party is often accused, are we not, condemned for being money obsessed, therefore having a heart of stone. But at the root of conservatism is a very high moral purpose, which is the pursuit of freedom and independence. And when the Centre for Policy Studies produces this policy, you will see that it connects the aim of freedom with the need for money, and it'll be dramatic, culture changing.
We look forward to hearing more about it. Thank
Sure.
you.